Chairman and Commissioners. I'm going to begin tonight from a place of just acknowledging a break in trust. Trust with the public, trust with staff, and trust with commissioners. While I think it's important to acknowledge who's responsible for that break in trust might be viewed as an individual, the reality is that all leadership's responsible for regaining that trust as we move forward. I work for the former county manager. I can't really answer or be responsible for her actions or all the decisions that she made. I can't go back and erase those or change those, but I am totally 100% responsible for how we move forward from July 1st on. I'm responsible for righting the wrongs where I can. I'm responsible for ensuring we do everything we can to rebuild that public trust. One of the first things we've done since July 1st is try to build a culture of transparency. In many ways, that's been a very painful process because we've released information to the public in a way that's more complete and thorough than was released in the past. And they're often shocked by seeing data they've seen in the past that looks very different. It's been a very painful process for us, but it is a necessary first step to regaining trust. I've worked for Buncombe County for 36 years. I've worked at every level of the organization. I have such respect for our staff and our work. And I just want to say that one person doesn't reflect on the integrity or professionalism of the organization. My sole purpose in serving as your transitional county manager is to right the wrongs where we can and set the right course for the future. And tonight I want to share the first 90 days of that transition plan. Okay. What we've accomplished since July 1st through early October, I want to talk through, and I want to begin that by looking at something you've seen recently in the media. This is actually how North Carolina General Statute defines policy, and it's probably the first example where we released information in a complete and thorough way to comply with the law that looked very different from information released in the past. And while I'm going to talk through all of these in a minute, I want to begin by saying anything you see shaded in purple, you either eliminated when you adopted a new personnel ordinance in early October, or I eliminated July 1st as your new manager. Those were discussions I had with this board as you made decisions about your new manager. Those were things we were very committed to act swiftly on and did so effective July 1st, and I'll talk about those in more detail. I first want to talk about writing what I can. You've heard people comment both in the media and tonight about bonuses, and I do want to, as we move forward tonight, try to clarify what's a bonus, what's a supplemental salary, and what are benefits employees were eligible for. I really do want to clarify some of that. But I also want to start by saying I realize that there are rights that need to be wrong, and my first focus has been what can I reduce in the county manager's budget. I clearly don't want to see damage to departments or damage to direct services to citizens. So what this represents to you is a 29% reduction in the county manager's budget. That is $280,871 of reoccurring savings. And the way that those are realized is reduction in the county manager's salary. And while you may not be able to talk about that, I will share that I negotiated a lower salary. I really wanted to be the model for how we needed to move forward. And I have used that many times in discussions with department heads or senior leadership since then, which is I took the step in negotiating the county manager's salary. I've also reduced the county manager's operating budget by almost $52,000. One of the numbers that I want to talk about, because I think it gets confused as a bonus, Buncombe County, for as long as I was an assistant county manager beginning in 2005, never had a full-time assistant county manager. The 2 and then eventually 3 assistant county managers were paid a one-time supplemental pay. So they were full-time department heads, and in my case, I was both the DSS director, the health director, the HHS director, and an assistant county manager. I have zeroed out those supplemental payments, but I also want to make the point that Buncombe had the least expensive assistant county manager structure of any urban county in North Carolina because of those supplemental payments, and that we didn't have any full-time positions. The other 9 urban counties have somewhere between 1 and 5 full-time assistant county managers, and their annual county contribution for those positions alone ranges from $117,000 to almost $800,000. And they too have to hire planning directors, health directors, and DSS directors. So it was a model that saved money, but we have eliminated those effective July 1st. The same is true for our finance director, who served as both the finance director and IT director and received an annual payment for those additional duties. Those total savings realized, as I said, are 29% of the county manager's total budget, $280,871 reoccurring. I want to talk through what I showed you earlier around salary and deal with both, I hope, some clarification as well as update you on where we are. I, as the county manager, eliminated any special contracts outside of appointed positions. You, by law, enter contracts with your CFO, your CEO, and your clerk. I've eliminated any other contractual agreements the prior manager had, and that included special travel allowances. When you adopted the new personnel ordinance, capped bonuses and incentives at $1,000. You set clear criteria about how those are awarded, and you require those individual employees are recognized in public, again, moving toward transparency. You eliminated, at staff's recommendation, any exempt comp time. That exempt comp time included 2 things. 2 employees were given 300 hours of exempt comp. You eliminated that. And all exempt employees were given 40 hours of exempt comp time annually with an allocation through FY19, and you sunsetted that. This is going to be one of many times I publicly tell you that I did make a mistake, and we'll come back to you in the FY19 budget asking to reinstate that for line staff, not managers, not department heads, but for our line social workers and social work supervisors and EMS supervisors, that we reinstate the final year that they were promised by the county manager. That has no cash value. But I'm owning that, and that I, in my haste to correct that, I lumped all employees with senior leadership and management team, and I want to acknowledge that. I want to talk about what is probably the most confusing, whether you are internal or external to the county, which is the early retirement incentive programs, of which the former county manager structured 3. I'll tell you that the early retirement incentive, and that gets lost in translation, actually saved the county $1.6 million. The first rendition of the early retirement program required departments to make up the cost of the retirement package by freezing or eliminating positions, or also hiring people in at a lower salary as we replace those positions, but each department had to submit a specific plan. The truth is 170 county employees took advantage of early retirement, and it simply depleted our capacity to continue offering that. That is not a bonus. When you see early retirement incentive noted in the media or in public information requests, that was a benefit, an entitlement employees had under the personnel ordinance. You ended that as you made changes to the personnel ordinance, but we are honoring the contracts of the 170 employees who'd already taken advantage of that. We also allowed any eligible employees time to sign up before the program came down. Also want to talk about what is clearly one of the most both controversial and confusing aspects of that is in one of those three plans, the county manager included in the budget ordinance language that said, I'm losing too many senior staff. I'd like to offer retention incentives to designated employees, asking them to stay to a certain point. That is the exact same benefit the other 170 people got. Those people didn't get anything special or unique, and they certainly aren't double dipping. Their arrangements say they did one for the other. That plan actually saved $96,000. I'm an example of that. It would not be the way I chose to take mine, but by capping it early, the county payout was on my salary at that time versus my salary at retirement. And I'm an example of somebody who's had promotions in that period of time. So when you look at those 10 people and their current earning capacity, county saved about $96,000 with that retention incentive. Again, not a bonus. That was actually a benefit that was included in the budget ordinance. I really want to talk about how we've moved forward since July 1st, and as we've shared with you and as you've helped define, we've been focused on transparency, accountability, equity, and community engagement. I want to start with public transparency and accountability. We've built and published dashboards with both complete information and the capacity for citizens and you to search. We've built those around debt affordability, capital projects. To Mr. Rice's point earlier, any citizen can go in and pull up a school capital project, click on a link, see exactly when it was approved, see a picture of the project, see the details of the financing, and see the vote on the financing. We've done the same thing with all capital projects. We've done the same thing with our budget, salaries and benefits, and we've linked all of those to the minutes and the board approval. So not only can a citizen see what actions taken, they can go back and see when it was approved in the exact language that was approved. We've channeled all of our Freedom of Information requests through a single portal to make sure they're all being responded to in a timely and accurate way. We're publishing those on our transparency website, and we've published frequently asked questions for those that come up again and again, legitimate questions from the public, and that's our effort to be more transparent. You've also adopted changes that require for any board action 2 weeks notice and publication of proposed changes. And one of the things you've seen recently, because y'all have tackled a lot of policy, is redlining those changes. So neither the citizens nor the board needs to compare an old one and a new one and try to figure out what's different. It's very clear. In the area of governing board oversight, you've limited the spending and authority of the county manager. You've appointed a chief financial officer who reports directly to you and is under the oversight of the board. You've clearly delineated the authority and role of the county manager and the chief financial officer, important part of how North Carolina structures county government. You're working on an annual performance evaluation and a contract renewal for all your appointed positions that will be public, talking about are there any changes in those contracts. You've clarified that only a public majority vote of the board can authorize funding for any economic or community development. You've delineated the purpose of the personnel and budget ordinance, and you restrict one from altering the other. Never again should we try to figure out how 3 incentive plans happen and in what order. You've been very clear about restricting that. You say not only does the budget require a public hearing, but the budget ordinance will be read aloud in that process of public hearing, with every segment being recorded of the budget ordinance. You required public, although this is not required by law, you required by the changes in the personnel ordinance that we publish notice and you hold a public hearing in order to change the personnel ordinance. Both of those replace any chairman discretion in the personnel ordinance with a public vote of the majority of the board. One of the things you've seen frequently in some of the newspaper coverage is at the discretion of the chairman. You all have removed that and said it's about the majority of the board in a public hearing with a public action. You heard last time about changes that came to you from the audit committee related to the internal audit. You revised the charter and the bylaws. You removed management as a member of the audit committee and added a second commissioner as another form of additional oversight. You clarified the reporting line of the internal auditor to assure she has direct access to this board. The internal auditor cannot be hired, fired, or disciplined without the consultation of the audit committee. The audit committee approves an annual internal audit plan and reports that annually to this board. And you've adopted the high standard of internal audit practice. And what I love about that practice, or that model, is it says every employee has a responsibility for controls in the organization. And you've established the internal auditor as the clearinghouse for all whistleblower complaints. In terms of budget ordinance, you've revised the budget amendment format to add clarity and to link directly to the supporting document. No longer do you see any budget amendments that are line items to line items. You see pictures, you see text descriptions, you have direct links to the supporting documents for the actions that are contained in that budget amendment. You've established a CFO approval process so that no expenditures can be made within the county manager budget without an outside approval process. You've expanded and opened the budget process. You're doing monthly public work sessions from November to June. Those sessions are open, they're recorded, and they're streamed. You've built budget dashboards that we're publishing. You will receive a line item budget, as you'll see in your very first budget workshop, and all of those provide a link to the minutes that approve the budget action. Never do you have to say to yourself, now when did we do that? I remember that. You can click on the link and be taken directly back to the minutes that approved it. We realigned our current staff to establish a performance management team. Matt Baker, who you heard from earlier, is a member of that management team. So they are continually looking at fiscal and programmatic performance, monitoring that, and working to improve it where we're able to. In the area of communication, we're transitioning more and more communication from not just the clerk's office, but to our employee and community relations staff. We've established a public information officer function using current staff. We've built a transparency dashboard where any member of the public can go and see all of those areas I talked about before, as well as seeing any of your special initiatives or projects. We've reestablished a weekly senior leadership team meeting and monthly management team meetings, and I am a big believer department heads need to be involved in policy and budget decisions. We're doing regular staff drop-ins that are both just touch-ins to see how staff are feeling and what's on their mind, and issues specific around things like our health insurance. We're responding to all Freedom of Information requests in a timely and complete manner. In terms of personnel management and protection, you revised the personnel ordinance as reported at the last Board of Commissioners meeting. Our goal in that ordinance is to shift resources and policies to recruiting and developing our staff, with less emphasis on our exiting staff or retaining senior staff. That's been a hard correction for us, but those are many of the changes you made. What are those benefits, or what are the ways we can recruit people and have people join our organization and we can grow their skill? We're requiring supervisory and management training on all basic HR and employment law across the organization. We've established practice to ensure consistency across departments in hiring, firing, and disciplinary action. We have a strong focus on diversity and inclusion, and we're rolling out a Speak Up campaign to publicize our no retaliation policies and an employee protection line. We need employees to feel able and willing to speak up when they have an issue or a concern. As we look forward beyond the first 90 days, you've been very clear in your expectation that we complete a salary study and that the first priority in that study is to address our lowest paid employees. To also, as we move forward in that planning, ensure the salaries for department heads and senior managers are in line with peer counties, and that we give our first report back to this board within 90 days of the study. I want to say when we bring that study back, it's likely it may require action. We may bring recommended actions to you as well. I want to end where I began by saying that Buncombe County employees serve with skill and professionalism every day. They immunize your children, they protect our community, they inspect homes and schools and daycares and all the buildings we go in. They make sure our restaurants are clean and safe, our water is safe, our air is safe. They answer when you dial 911, and they protect our most vulnerable children and adults. They, like our citizens, deserve strong leadership as we navigate the future. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I will tell you, coming up on your screen is a link for citizens, a transparency link that'll take you to all the documents I referenced, as well as the dashboards. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mandy. All right, any questions?
Can we comment?
Sure.
I'm sure others will want to comment as well, but I want to take a moment, County Manager Stone, to thank you for this presentation and thank you for the commitment to reform and transparency that's characterized your administration since day one. These are turbulent times for our community, and they require strong leadership, willingness to think creatively, to move quickly, to acknowledge mistakes when they happen, and to make sure that every step of the way that we are supporting our county staff and also providing clear information to our community. The buck stops here, and ultimately we're accountable for that, and I think it's important to state that publicly. I appreciate the full overview provided of what's happened in these 90 days and want to take a moment to say to our community that these are important reforms that have happened and that needs to continue. And I think this commission is fully committed to supporting you, Mandy, and your team in continuing to look at every way we can build transparency into government and accountability and focus on the one and only reason we're here, which is to serve Buncombe County. Thank you for the report.
I have some.
Go ahead. I want to thank you. You inherited a mess would be an understatement. And, you know, I've been a commissioner for 5 years, and it's on us. We could go into a myriad of excuses or the blame game, but we're here where we are now. What your team has done is extraordinary. And I feel comfortable, confident that what happened before can never happen again. So I heartily support Buncombe County employees, the changes that you've enacted, and I heartily support you as our county manager, and I'm so grateful to you that you've taken on this task. And to the citizens of our county, employees in this county that work for Buncombe County are extraordinary. They're not the bad people. They are extraordinary people, and if you have that picture up there again, they don't say, I can't come to work. They're on it. And I'm anxious for the pay study to come out because I'd like to put an emphasis on the lower paid employees and make sure that they are where they need to be. But from the bottom of my heart, I thank you and this great staff that you've created in a very short time. And I know what happened before can never happen again.
Commissioner Fryer.
Mandy, thank you, and the staff. It takes all of you. I said here a few weeks ago, it's a new day in Buncombe County. You just saw it, 90 days, what you've accomplished, and this staff has accomplished in 90 days. That's why I say we need to be listening to you. They should have been listening a long time ago. But now they have the opportunity. We all have the opportunity. Yes, the buck does stop here, and I agree with the whole board. It's the buck stops here. We've all made mistakes up here. If people don't make mistakes, they haven't done anything. But what you just presented tonight lays out to people where you're at. You've put out stuff that's even went against yourself in the process, but you explained it tonight, and people ought to understand that. And I thank you for, this has been a night and day job for you, and 7 days a week from best I can tell. And, we, as commissioners, our job is to give the confidence to you. It's not to guide you. You guide us. You bring stuff to us. We can I can say, well, I'd like to do this, and you say, no, that's not going to work. That's fine with me. But we don't. What you've done in this short period of time, and this staff that's in this room, and the other ones that's all around this building and at home now, all I can do is thank you. And just please keep up the good work. I think once you bring back the rest of what you got for us, that we'll all have a great understanding, a better understanding. And I know that my 5 years is like Ellen. It's been up and down a lot, especially on my end. But it is a new day. I mean, we can't do it all in one day. So all I'm asking is the 7 of us to give you time to lay out what you're wanting to lay out. And you laid out a lot tonight that's already been tried to be put out there. So I thank you for that.
Mandy, before you go, I'd like to thank you and the staff. And being new on the commission, I think I'd like to sum up by saying what my late father told me years ago when I was kicked out of college for a panty raid. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I've got to admit it. But he told me something I've always remembered, and I took it from there. He said, when you make mistakes, you can always look back with 20/20 vision and don't make the same mistake again. But he said, now, son, you get your head on straight. Think about today and where you're going tomorrow. He said, because you got to go back to college. And I think when I think about where we are and what we need to do, thanks to you and the employees of Buncombe County, we will get there, and we'll do it in the right way, and we will regain the confidence of the people of Buncombe County. So thank you for what you do, and it's up to us to make sure that we give all of you the support you needed to complete this, and that we don't always do it with a knee-jerking way, but we move ahead deliberately and do the right things so that we don't make the same mistakes again. Thanks.
Before you go, I want to, and I think it's really important here. Now, I've been here, this is my 5th year also. I want to thank this current board for its support of all these actions. It's a really big deal. Then that's the only time I want to thank this board. I want to challenge the media that's in the room. What you saw here tonight, if you were in a Fortune 500 company and we just made a major acquisition, and and staff was challenged with going in a way that would not disrupt that organization and make changes for the next 10, 20, and 30 years. You just heard a plan that was exceptional. 90 days, amazing. I knew these things were put in place, and was anxiously waiting the report to see what had actually been accomplished by giving your staff the liberty to take a few transparency and access and accountability suggestions this board made and run with it. This as, and I guess we're going to use this buzzword, as Commissioner Fryer has said, it is a new day in Buncombe County, and just this in 90 days. And I would also say that the next time you come, we don't have to see a list as big as that. The expectation, this is a living document, and the people that work for Buncombe County, you need to, if you're hearing anything or you're reading anything, hear one thing: this board is committed to you, and as a team member in Buncombe County, you don't be worried about anything, don't be concerned about anything as far as your pay or anything within your family, because this team and under your leadership is going to it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. But just an amazing summary. Good job.
Not yet.
Not done.
Not without me speaking. You've heard from 5 the appreciation we got for you and your staff, what you've done. I want to be the 6th one. That this is amazing. I'm coming up on 1 year of being on the commission, and what happened in the past is I don't think we can do nothing about it. Yes, we've got suggestion, but what you've done and the staff has brought is going to be what the future of the Buncombe County Commissioners want, and with your guidance. And they've said it all already, but I just had to thank you and show you the support that I support you 100%. And thank you.
Well, thank you. None of this could have happened without the board's courage and patience with us in these 90 days. So thank you for that leadership.